I think you've just heard a lot of chatter about, what we're asking for is not sustainable for the business. And being on this side with Unrivaled, I know what it takes to run a sustainable business. So I think if they can't find a model that makes it happen, they need to put people in place who can, because we've proven that it is possible. There is a way, and we're thriving in that. And so I do think a deal is going to get done, but we're standing firm in what we believe in. We're not going to back down, and we can't take less. The sport has just grown too much. It would be a disservice to the people who came before us, to the work that we've put in, to take less.
Napheesa Collier just dropped a nuclear bomb right in the middle of women's basketball. This woman is literally the VP of the WNBA Players Union, and she's out here torching the entire league while building her own competing basketball organization. Yes, you read that correctly. She's supposed to be fighting for WNBA players, but instead she's actively trying to steal them for her startup. The level of audacity here is mind-blowing, and the chaos that followed was completely devastating for everyone caught in the crossfire.
Is saying absolutely, and the reality is the deadline is just a couple of days away. So she's saying that she sees a deal getting done, but also that they are not going to take less. Where do things stand now with those negotiations?
Yeah, Malika, both sides are still very far apart in these negotiations. Rev sharing is still at the centerpiece of these conversations, as they have been for the past couple months. What would a revenue share system look like? What would be considered revenue, and how would you account for expenses? Those are all things that are being discussed right now. Now, last week, Malika, multiple sources familiar with these negotiations told ESPN that the WNBA is projecting that a proposal by the Players Association that has 30% gross revenue and a salary cap around $10.5 million would result in $700 million in losses for the W. That is
to negotiate honestly for a league when you're reconstructing its replacement? Let me know what you think in the comments, because this whole mess is more chaotic than pickup basketball at your neighborhood rec center. Serious.
Co-founders of Unrivaled, Stewart and Collier, are, of course, VPs on the committee. The very committee that voted to authorize a strike against WNBA and NBA owners over the CBA. The very committee that authorized the proposal that would lose the WNBA $700 million? The very committee that is turning down salary increases of about 9 times the amount.
Let's dive deep into conflicts of interest, because Napheesa Collier just created the ultimate guide on how to destroy your professional credibility. This person holds the VP position for the WNBA Players Union. That means she's supposed to advocate for players inside the WNBA system. But plot twist, she's also co-founding Unrivaled, which is a direct competitor to the WNBA. Imagine being the executive chef at Burger King while secretly opening your own restaurant next door and then publicly complaining that Burger King's food quality is terrible. The raw nerve of this move would actually be admirable if it weren't so completely insane. Now, here's where everything goes completely off the rails. Collier didn't just quietly develop her league behind closed doors. Oh no, that would be too subtle. She went full nuclear on the WNBA right in the middle of CBA negotiations. She stood up boldly and announced that the WNBA's entire financial structure is completely broken. Her exact words were, if the WNBA can't discover a model that makes that work, they need to bring in people who can figure it out. Hold up. You're the VP of the Players Union, and you're publicly destroying the league's core business strategy. That's not negotiation. That's straight-up warfare disguised as diplomacy. But wait, there's so much more. Collier then had the absolute audacity to position Unrivaled as her perfect example of how professional basketball should operate. She insisted Unrivaled had demonstrated it's absolutely possible to create a profitable business and claimed they're absolutely crushing it. She promised to hold her ground in negotiations, stating, "We're not backing down, and we refuse to accept less money." Crushing it. Let's examine what crushing it actually looks like, because clearly Collier needs some basic business education. Unrivaled is completely funded by private investors. That's not sustainable profit, people. That's venture capital money keeping you alive while you desperately try to figure out how to generate actual revenue. Claiming your league is financially stable because investors are dumping cash into it is like claiming you're wealthy because your credit cards still work. The self-deception is absolutely incredible. One fan perfectly captured this when they wrote they believe attracting investors equals making profit. Wrong. That's funding to support you while you build the infrastructure to eventually generate real money. Exactly right. Investors aren't income streams. They're essentially betting you might become profitable eventually. So, here's some cash to avoid immediate bankruptcy. TNT is apparently losing serious money on unrivaled broadcasts. The moment those advertising contracts disappear and TNT stops funding this experiment, it's game over. Done. Vanished like promises from politicians during election season. And here's the detail that absolutely killed me. Collier scheduled surgery right in the middle of an unrivaled season. Let me say that again. The co-founder of this supposedly revolutionary, thriving basketball organization decided to have medical procedures and miss games in her own league instead of scheduling them during the WNBA offseason, when Unrivaled supposedly has 0 players competing.
Ankle surgery or whatever it was. I don't get it. This is in January. You got hurt. Makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. That, in my opinion, that shows a little bit of lack of interest in your own business, I guess. Especially in light of the fact...
If that doesn't scream, I don't really believe my own product is important, then I honestly don't know what would. Your actions reveal your true priorities, and her actions are broadcasting that even she doesn't consider Unrivaled genuinely significant. Let's examine the absolutely hilarious differences between these two leagues. Unrivaled operates as 3-on-3 basketball with tiny rosters in one single location using one small gym with one cramped arena. Meanwhile, when Caitlin Clark takes the court for WNBA games, they're selling out enormous NBA venues with 20,000-plus screaming fans filling every seat. The difference couldn't be more stark if someone designed it specifically to make Collier look foolish. She's operating what one genius commenter described as a bargain basement-looking basketball operation. Basically a television studio setup that might hold 10,000 people on a really good night, and then she has the unbelievable nerve to lecture the WNBA about following Unrivaled's business model. The irony practically writes comedy sketches by itself. Another person raised the perfectly logical question about how many tickets they are just giving away for free. Because honestly, when you're a brand new league desperately trying to create excitement, you're definitely distributing complimentary tickets like Halloween candy. That's not legitimate, sustainable attendance. That's an artificial, manufactured buzz designed for social media. Here's what absolutely destroys me about this entire situation. Unrivaled isn't even in its second complete season. It's basically still learning to walk. One person completely obliterated this logic by pointing out this is literally the first week of the second season. How can you possibly claim to understand long-term business sustainability? You can't, and you don't. It's like a 3-year-old trying to give their parents advice about managing household finances. You've existed for approximately 5 minutes, so maybe slow down with the expert business consultation. Another fan summarized it perfectly, calling it a 2-year, 3-on-3 pop-up league, and suggested, please return when Unrivaled survives 3 full decades. The WNBA has been working for years developing infrastructure, negotiating television contracts, and building genuine fan loyalty. While Collier believes her tiny experiment that's existed for roughly 10 seconds should become the industry standard, the arrogance is absolutely breathtaking.